Welcome to Phacilitate's digital platform. I'm here with Bill Pod from Landmark Angels and Landmark Family Office at our Miami event every year, our big annual event. Thank you very much for coming down and joining us.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
So I'm really interested. We're just after JP Morgan and we've got all the clinicians here. There is so much interest from the investment community for the advanced therapeutics field. I wanted to ask, why is that? And particularly from an investor's point of view, what is their outlook about the field?
I think going way back, if you look at the fields from large molecule to small molecule, from the investment side, about 96% of the investments in the cancer space, this is going years back, have been failures. But you had some big investments there, big returns on some of those. We call them unicorns is actually the name they use for the billion-dollar investments and over. The coming forward is something new, what's out there, what will work today to make those investments more productive. And bio has had a good run up until probably the last 12 months, where there have been some we'll call them hiccups along the way. But it's been a good run. So from the science side, what we look for are new, novel approaches. And for us, that means cell therapies, stem cell therapies, vaccines. And we've invested in companies along those bases. Today, obviously, the move has been toward CAR-Ts, CRISPRs, immunogenics. So that in combination with some of the other therapies to jumpstart the immune system with T cells is, I think, a very viable approach. We're also looking at the genetic side. Genetic side, very important, obviously, in this space. What's happening with our genes? When should we know about what's happening? Not just waiting until the end the disease actually strikes. We want to go earlier. We want to see when these things are starting to occur. So on the gene therapy side, genomics is very important. Obviously, we said that. But the point is, how do you do this? Example, if everyone's genome were mapped today, and you had privacy issues aside, because you wouldn't, if somebody didn't want that information about them, we wouldn't put their name with it. But if their genome were mapped and this became universal, you now have a way to distinguish what was happening. Example, is it a BRCA1 or BRCA2? How would you treat that? How would you treat it early? You could do these, you can do them actually, the genome mapping prenatal, and then you could follow. So if there's a disease like BRCA1 or BRCA2 in a particular family with women, so when a girl reaches puberty, you would do another one. And you do it more frequently as this gene was likely to mutate along the way. And there'll be, on the device side, devices that'll be able to work in combination with the gene and cell side to be able to get these mutations early enough. We're talking about mutations and getting programmed back to what they should be, as opposed to further along where we have the actual disease state occurring, which is obviously a much harder and more expensive area to treat.
So looking at the investment fields, you have loads of companies that are doing some really novel stuff. Where should they be looking for investment, or where does investment come from here in 2017?
That's a very good question. A very good question. There are a number of sources for capital today. We can start with the grant side. There are a number of grants available to both early and even later stage companies. Some of the companies, by the way, that we see have had grant totals approaching $40–50 million. You start with the SBIRs, and then you go, NCI has different programs, NIH has different programs, DOD, most people don't know DOD, brain, anything to do with the brain, traumatic injuries, they have programs set up for that. So various federal programs available, state programs, there are various state programs as well. So that's one source of capital. Another source of capital for these programs will be looking at the philanthropies and foundations. the philanthropies and foundations are very, very important. We have a forum each year called Investing for Cures. It's a major forum we do in New York. We had 135 people attend. We had major pharma there, philanthropies and foundations. The philanthropies and foundations, what they're able to do is they're particularly focused on a disease, but they look at a lot of different companies within that particular area. And a lot of the companies don't know to approach them or how approachable they are. And it's a process, they're competing with others, but they're decision makers there who will determine what they've done, where they'd like to pivot a little bit, and they can find those companies if they're there, if they basically apply to them. So that's another source of capital. And then coming downstream a little bit into what we do is with the private investment side. We have an angel groups. There are several hundred angel groups. We're a member of the Angel Capital Association. That's the Kaufman-sponsored umbrella group. Not all angel groups will do life science, therapeutics, even devices. There are several we do. There's another one, Life Science Angels, Mass Science Angels, Boston Harbor. These are examples of other angel groups that specialize in this space. So companies can find these groups. Angel Capital Association, for example, lists all those angel groups that are members and who their members are and what they're looking for, and so they can apply there. We have our own angel group. We have 300 members to our group. And a subcategory of ours, the family offices. We have an investment alliance of some of the major family offices in the U.S. And Europe as well, and Asia. And these family offices invest on average per early stage, maybe $1 to $3 million. Some of whom have already established foundations. And the interesting part about what they're doing is we always ask the question, well, how do they know what they're doing, what they're investing in within a very complex space if they don't have the background? And they either can hire outside advisors to advise them. A lot of them invest from the heart. So they maybe have a family member, friend, colleague with a particular disease. They're giving monies away anyway in terms of foundations, so maybe they will do a direct deal, and they do direct deals with us. And the other thing is social impact investing. So they really, in three spaces, I think it's healthcare especially, it's our number one, energy and education. They want to give back to society, but they want to get the economic returns. By giving to foundation, that doesn't preserve the capital, that capital is going out, and sometimes there's a lack of transparency as to whether that capital going out has been effective. And what they do on direct side, they're choosing the companies, they can see those companies, they can have the possibility of an economic return if the company succeeds, obviously. If it really is a big hit, they have a very good social impact, I mean a great social impact, which helps the family name. It's not just capital with the family and getting that capital down to the future generations. It's patriarch is looking at what have I left in terms of the world? How have I improved the world? What have I done? What does our name mean in the future? That's the key, not how much money, but the key is what have I done and how is our name associated with something that's successful.
Oh, that's incredibly interesting, because a lot of the time you think investment numbers, but really there's a lot of emotion behind a lot of that. And wow, thank you very much.